Good morning, everybody. In today's video, I'd like to clarify some information about grow zones versus frost dates, and specifically how that information applies to the timing I use for my annual vegetable, flower, and herb planting dates. Now, I hesitated to do a video on this topic before because I felt like there was already an oversaturation of information out there on the internet and on YouTube specifically. But I still get questions fairly regularly, and I fear that I've inadvertently caused a little confusion just by using the Zone 6 label in my videos. Now, grow zone is arguably not the most important piece of information when it comes to growing annual vegetables, flowers, and herbs, which is what I focus on primarily. I use the Zone 6 label in my videos as a reference indicator of my general growing area. It's the quickest and easiest way I know to communicate that I'm in a bit more of a northern growing area versus, say, in California or in the deep south, as many YouTube gardening channels seem to be. Plus, the YouTube algorithm favors quick and easy search terms like Zone 6 gardening as compared to Midwestern Ohio gardening with a first fall frost date of October 15th and a last spring frost date of May 10th. As is the case with all things social media, creators are rewarded for simplicity, not nuance, something which drives me a little bit crazy. But let's jump into the actual information and what's important to know. So first and foremost, to find your USDA grow zone. As of the update in 2023, check out the USDA site, and I've linked that in the video description below as well. Just enter your zip code. I'm just using a random Ohio zip code here, and it will give you your current zone as well as information about your average annual coldest temperature. In 6A, for example, currently mine is -10 to -5 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we look at the whole US map, you can see that this entire swath of darker green is also categorized as Zone 6A. Per the USDA site, the plant hardiness zone map is based on the average annual extreme minimum winter temperature. So that's the average lowest temperature over a 30-year span. They're going from 1991 to 2020, not the lowest ever. And these are displayed as 10-degree Fahrenheit zones, ranging from Zone 1, the coldest, to Zone 13, the warmest. Each zone is also divided into half zones designated as A and B. For example, 7A and 7B are 5-degree Fahrenheit increments representing the colder and warmer halves of Zone 7, respectively. USDA grow zones are most helpful in deciding which perennial plants to grow in your area, so those plants that come back year after year, as most can only withstand certain low winter temperatures and some can only withstand certain high summer temperatures. But zone isn't the only factor to take into account when considering perennial plantings. Factors such as humidity, soil type, winter snow cover, proximity to buildings, humidity, and many others affect the survivability of perennial plants. For example, my mom, who's a master gardener, says she only chooses perennials which are a full zone hardier than our actual zone. This has to primarily do with the exposure of their property. So they are primarily surrounded by open agricultural fields. They get a lot of really severe cold, drying winds and hot summer winds blowing through there. And she's had a lot of trouble with marginally hardy plants not surviving. Now, I delve a little bit into perennial food plants here on this channel, things like strawberries and other fruits, perennial vegetables like rhubarb and asparagus, but most of the things I'm dealing with are annuals. Now, that's not to say that grow zone is never helpful when it comes to annual plantings. My grow zone 6 Ohio gardening climate is going to be very, very similar to someone in, say, a Zone 6 Indiana or Illinois garden. However, it's not going to be so similar when it comes to a Zone 6 Utah or Arizona or Idaho climate. For example, Moscow, Idaho is also Zone 6. 6B, so they're technically half a zone warmer than I am. But in Moscow, they still have a 10% chance of experiencing a 32-degree low in the last half of June, or a 36-degree low in mid-July. That is a lot different than here in Ohio, when in June or July, we would never experience temperatures that low. Besides first and last frost dates, our overall climate is very different. Humidity, precipitation, all of those types of things, and insect and disease pressures are very different. So just because we're in the same zone as someone, we cannot always assume that we can just use their same planting advice and timing. So in terms of timing for planting annuals, what can we do? There's a lot of nuance, but looking looking at those first and last frost dates are still about the most useful measures we have. Now, there are quite a few handy sites online where you can just plug in your zip code and get information about your first and last frost dates. The one I like best is from the National Gardening Association, which pulls its data from NOAA, the National Centers for Environmental Information. It breaks down the temperature by increments and the percent chance of reaching these low temperatures. So again, let's use Moscow, Idaho as an example. The charts on this page show the probabilities of receiving a certain low temperature on a certain day. For example, in Moscow, you have a small 10% chance of getting hit with a 32-degree low and frost on June 21st. There's a 50% chance of being hit by a 32-degree low on May 25th. And you have an 80% chance of seeing a 32-degree low on May 6th. So in Moscow, while you might chance planting out frost-tender crops like tomatoes and peppers in mid to late June, planting them out in May without frost protection could still be quite risky. Let's compare that to an area like mine in Ohio. I'm going to use a random zip code here of Delphos, Ohio. In Delphos, you have a small 10% chance of getting hit with a 32-degree low and frost on May 9th. There's a 50% chance of being hit by a 32-degree night and a frost on April 25th. You have an 80% chance of seeing 32 degrees on April 16th. So in Delphos, you can easily plant out frost-tender crops like tomatoes and peppers about mid-May with really no risk. You might even be able to plant them out in mid-April if you have frost protection. So Ohio, Idaho, same grow zone, very big difference in frost dates and number of frost-free dates. In my videos, I talk about starting tomatoes from seed on April 1st and transplanting out about May 15th. Someone in Moscow is not going to be able to use that same timing, even though they're the same zone as me. Side note, I am not a risk taker when it comes to my frost-tender crops. I am always waiting until at least that 10% chance mark, and usually even later. In fact, I generally use May 15th as my safe date, even though as of May 10th, I only have a 10% chance of hitting a 32-degree low here. Now, if you prefer a simplified snapshot of your frost date, Farmer's Almanac has a first and last frost date finder as well. It also uses NOAA data, but gives you the dates for a 30% probability of first and last frost. As their website states, we use a 30% probability threshold, meaning there's about a 3 in 10 chance frost will occur before or after the given date. They also note, and this is very important, because microclimates vary, your backyard might be warmer or cooler than nearby towns. Use these dates as a flexible guide, not a guarantee. So here for Delphos, Ohio, we see a last spring frost date of April 30th and a first fall frost date of October 19th. My 30% chance is May 3rd and October 14th. But again, I'm not going to plant anything frost tender out that early. Now, all that being said, I do generally tell folks that they can look at their last spring frost date and my last spring frost date and bump their planting dates up or back based on how many weeks difference there is. So if someone in, say, Southern Ohio has a last spring frost date that's 2 weeks earlier than mine, they can just shift their planting dates up 2 weeks. Again, this works pretty well for other folks in Ohio and in similar growing areas. But there are also some more subtle factors to consider with timing. Things like humidity, precipitation, temperature swings, annual monthly highs and lows. These all come into play for timing of annual crops. I mentioned in this video why I have to plant cool season crops so early here in Ohio. A big part of it is because by June, we're already experiencing average daily highs high enough to be detrimental to the growth and maturity of lots of cool season crops. If you live in an area that experiences very long, cool, mild springs and early summers, you may not have to push those planting windows so early, as even if you plant out later in the garden, it's not going to be detrimental to the health of your plants. You could also live in a zone 6 area, which has a much shorter window of frost-free days. So let's use Moscow again as an example. It looks like there in Moscow, you could have, in theory, a full month fewer of frost-free dates than I do here in Ohio. I would imagine that this can make growing warm season crops very, very challenging. You may even have to rely on season extension methods like greenhouses or or cloches just to get a ripe tomato. Full disclosure, I've never gardened in Moscow. I have visited pea and bean trials out there. So if anybody watching this video is from Moscow or a surrounding area, let me know how accurate this is. I know the frost data is correct, but I'm curious about your ability to grow warm season crops. I think all of this truly speaks to the importance of taking gardening advice with a grain of salt. I certainly don't want to discourage you from watching my channel if you find it helpful, but never discount the importance of finding an experienced gardener who is growing in the same conditions, the same climate, the same vicinity that you are. And remember that there are lots of regionally based resources out there as well. University extension programs, libraries often bring in gardeners in the spring to give talks. Seek out your little small, locally owned mom and pop nursery centers. And most importantly, don't be afraid to strike up other gardeners that are growing in your same little microclimate. Microclimates, even within relatively close growing proximity, can provide substantially different growing conditions. I find that in speaking with other gardeners in my same growing area, the only difference being that they're growing in cities or towns, is that they're experiencing pretty substantial season extension on either end, so early spring and late fall, just because of the increased number of buildings and pavement and the wind protection, all of these things creating a kind of little protected and warming microclimate as compared to growing out in the country where we're more exposed. Proximity to high traffic roadways can affect microclimates, as can differences in elevation, proximity to large bodies of water, being surrounded by woods, and many more factors. You can even alter your own existing microclimate via strategic design choices such as hills and swales, wind blocks, buildings, all of those types of things. You may find that even if you're just 20 minutes down the road from me, you can start lettuce in January, not March, because you happen to have a southern exposure with a brick wall protecting it from any kind of cold winds. Just overall, I find that there are very few hard and fast rules in gardening other than treat your soil right. And if anyone tells you otherwise, run the other way. And like I try to stress in so many of my videos, don't ever be afraid to experiment with your own growing conditions, because you just never know what is going to work for you. Now, one last thing I did want to be sure to mention is why frost dates are so important when we're talking about the timing of annual crops. Our annual garden plants, vegetables, flowers, and herbs, are generally either categorized into warm season or cool season. Cool season plants, obviously, are going to thrive in cooler conditions, and often warm temperatures can be detrimental to their performance. They are typically tolerant of frost or freezing temperatures and often will taste better after experiencing frost, and are often transplanted or direct sown before your last spring frost date occurs. Warm season crops, on the other hand, are going to thrive in warm to hot weather. They are typically frost tender, meaning that they can be damaged or even killed by freezing temperatures, and are direct seeded or transplanted out after all danger of frost has passed. In most growing areas, these crops are grown during the summer, whereas the cool season crops are going to be grown in the spring or the fall, or both. Examples of cool season crops include broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, kohlrabi, beets, carrots, potatoes, radishes, turnips, peas, lettuce, chard, collards, spinach, cilantro, and dill. And some of our cool season flowers are things like calendula, pansies, and violas. Examples of warm season crops include corn, cucumbers, melons, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, okra, eggplant, squash, zucchini, pumpkins, peppers, basil, and our warm season flowers are things like sunflowers, marigolds, and zinnias. Our timing for these crops is based on frost dates no matter where you are gardening. You will often see language on your seed packets stating things like start seed 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost date, or direct sow after all danger of frost has passed. And while you may find that your specific planting dates can be tweaked based on your growing location or manipulated through the use of season extenders, these basic frost date guided planting times are an important jumping off point. Well, I hope that that helps to clarify things and not just make everything a lot more confusing for everybody. But as always, if you have additional questions about anything I covered or didn't get covered, drop a line in the comments below and let me know. I try to get everything answered as quickly as I can. And if you found today's video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, Growfully with Jenna. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.